Hello, dear folks. Welcome to the show. Jack Chow on East West with G&E TV. With Officer Peter Liang in New York PD, there is a lot of voices from everywhere that we're hearing about. And one, we know that he is indicted and charged with lots of charges. And on the other hand, we hear petitions, we hear different point of views, we hear on the news, here and there, putting all the pieces together, the whole picture looks very puzzling, right? So to get to the point, once again, I turn my crying baby to professionals. Speaking of professionals, joining me is a criminal lawyer, Mr. Dennis Chang. He's my good backbone that I can rely upon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you,
my
Jack.
dear friend.
Good to be back. Thank you.
Good. All right. I feel even better because I have my crying baby here, and I have my audiences calling me or sending me emails with opinions thrown to the pot from different ways. One group saying that, okay, you guys stop petitioning because it wouldn't change. And the other party say that, okay, the louder the voice, the better the result, regardless, even though the system is the system is handled by people, by human. Mm-hmm. Human has a brain, human can listen, human can understand, human can later on revise their thinking or whatever, right? So anyway, it's very mystifying. So what is exactly, what has, let's go back to the very beginning though. What has, to your understanding, started in the very beginning as the case?
Well, we're talking about Officer Peter Liang, right?
Yes.
You know, this officer is a very young, I think he's 27-year-old, probationary police officer.
I see.
And he just started with the department. He was in a pretty rough area of town, going through what I understand, a darkened stairway in a building. I understand his flashlight was in his right hand, his gun was pulled out in his left hand in a darkened stairway, and he ends up accidentally shooting and killing a young black resident in the building. He was recently indicted with criminal charges, now facing manslaughter charges, assault, official misconduct charges of that nature. So he's been criminally charged, basically, for this accidental shooting while on duty. It has outraged a large portion of the Chinese community. As you mentioned, a very large petition was put together and submitted to Washington. In support of this young officer.
I see. Okay, back to the point though, when we say some misfire, right? So do we clarify the situation? An officer holds the gun somehow mechanically, whatever, due to mechanical problem, or just to lose a fire, something like that, or to fire aiming at something which is wrong. So how much do we know, or do we already know in which case he fired the gun?
Well, you know, in terms of researching this story, one thing that I find interesting to note is that everybody's talking about the case except Officer Liang. There's no statements from him about his side of the story or about his perception of what happened. So in my review of the media reports on this case, and this may or may not be true, but some of the things that I've gleaned is that his orders were to patrol the outside of the building, not the inside, so that he shouldn't have even been on the inside of the building. And of course, all police officers have rules of procedure on their conduct, on when to pull your gun and when not to pull your gun, and evidently his gun was pulled out and held in his left hand, which and a flashlight in his right hand, which I wouldn't be surprised if that violated procedure. I'm not a police expert, but there are specific procedures.
Protocols.
Right, protocols about when they can pull out their weapon, when they're not supposed to pull out their weapon. Evidently, it accidentally goes off. It kills this young man. And another thing that did come out was after the shooting, they didn't radio their dispatch. They didn't radio their headquarters. They called their police union reps on the phone first. And after they called their reps, then they reported the shooting to the dispatch. So there's a lot of information that's coming out.
Misconduct.
There's some allegations of maybe some slight misconduct, but none of it is coming from Officer Liang. I think he's wisely holding off making comments until his day in court.
Could it be the fact that his attorney advised him to keep silent for a time until the right moment comes in?
Oh, that's probably not only his attorney's advice, but it's probably the advice that he got from his union representatives. And in my opinion, that's good advice.
I see.
You have the right to remain silent.
My friend Dennis Chang is a criminal attorney himself, and as a matter of fact, he's a winning attorney representing several cases. One of the cases I remember very vividly was the downtown, the East LA part, right? The Wasp area case that won a big time with his representation. So turning the crying baby to him might be the fact that we want to look for some professional explanations. Through the explanations, I try to, if I may, get onto the point one by one though, by reading the list of the charges, right? And probably you can explain to me which applies to what.
Sure.
Like that kind of thing.
Sure.
He was charged during the Brave court appearance with manslaughter, number one. Criminally negligence homicide. That's two. And then second degree assault, second degree reckless endangerment, and 2 counts of official misconduct.
Right.
So let's deal with from the bottom up.
Okay.
Official misconduct, could that mean the fact that he went in the building when he was not supposed to get in?
You know, it could mean any number of things. That's a pretty broad charge. Official misconduct.
All right.
I think it's generally not following the rules and procedures and protocols.
The protocols, yes.
It may have been being inside of the building when he wasn't supposed to be.
All right.
It may have been pulling out his gun when he wasn't supposed to pull out his gun. It may be holding his gun in his left hand instead of his right hand because he had a flashlight in his right hand.
He's right-handed or left-handed?
I'm not sure. It sounds like he was right-handed and had a flashlight in his right hand.
He used a revolver.
Right.
A revolver sometimes, when people left-handed, they use a revolver.
Right.
Am I right?
Right.
I'm not a gun shooter myself, but I know basically if you prefer a revolver, you tend to be a left-handed person rather than right-handed. I don't know.
Right.
Could
so
be.
yeah, so that official misconduct could be any number of things. It's not really specific that allows us to hone in on what exactly the misconduct allegedly was.
And then the second degree reckless endangerment.
Right.
Right. So if they confirm the misconduct, so are they repeating the same charge by saying the second degree reckless endangerment?
Well, I think those are different charges. As an example, official misconduct could be something like being inside of the building when he was never assigned to go inside of that building.
I see.
And then the endangerment obviously would be this young man that ended up being killed. So the one charge, the endangerment charge relates to the harm or the threat of harm to the other individual. The misconduct relates to simply breaking the rules.
And then if that applies to the fact that a young man was killed, and why would they still do another charge, say criminally negligence of homicide?
Right.
So are they repeating the same charges with the same thing? One life was killed?
You know, I don't think it's really repeating the same charge. It's a criminal law term that's called lesser included offenses.
Lesser
included offenses.
Explanation, please?
Well, if we go to the top charge, which is manslaughter, manslaughter is a reckless killing, not an intentional killing where I think about it, I plan it, I hate you and I want you to die and I plan the killing. That's first-degree murder.
That's first degree.
But manslaughter is a reckless, accidental reckless killing. Well, in that manslaughter charge, included in that would be criminally negligent homicide or criminally reckless homicide or even a second-degree assault. So the big charge is the manslaughter charge, and possibly when it gets to the jury may not be able to reach a verdict on manslaughter. And then they'll go to the next lower charge. Well, maybe we could possibly find a negligent homicide charge. Then if they can't do that, then maybe they can go down and find a reckless endangerment charge. So they'll start at the top and then move their way down
until to the very bottom, though, misconduct.
Right.
Official misconduct, something like that.
Right.
Right.
And the range of penalties is going to be very vast across the board. Official misconduct may be a no jail time to maybe 10 or 20 or 30 days. Manslaughter could be up to 15 years and everything in between, depending on where the jury ends up.
I see. In other words, this is how I'm trying to understand, but taking this chance to understand the system, though. When the DA charges somebody, they give them a whole parameter in which you have a step by step down. If you can't convict number one, how about two? How about three? How about four?
Right.
Goes on and on like that.
Right. Right.
That's exactly how the system works?
That's what the DA did in this case. In other cases, it's not unusual where the DA will file it all or nothing, where they'll just file the manslaughter and no other lesser included offenses, which forces the jury to either convict all or nothing.
Like the Fullerton case.
Kelly Thomas.
Kelly Thomas case.
Exactly.
Manslaughter, that's it.
Or nothing.
Or nothing.
Right.
Right. All right.
Right.
All right. And piece of education. My dear audiences, I really use this show as a classroom. First, for me, to get a moment of education. You know, there is always something to learn. Never too late to learn. And even though as young as I am, never too late to learn, right? Okay, now to my audiences, I really wish this will give you information. Now understand how the system works. They bring you a whole parameter of different charges going lesser and lesser. What's the term?
Lesser included offenses.
Lesser included offenses.
Right.
All right, good. That's a brand new term. Thank you very much. Let's take a short moment now. When we come back, we'll continue from there on to see how the poor guy's his fate is going to be handled. So stay with us.